you're enabling that behavior. When you're not demanding them, if you're not demanding change from them, you're enabling the behavior. And I can tell you, I've had friendships where I enabled toxic behavior, and you just knew how this person was. And eventually they would come back around after they kind of got over themselves. And I'm too old. I am too old to deal with someone who is not able to deal with, process, handle their emotions without lashing out on other people. I was naive enough to think that that would be a good outlet for me and that would help further or better our relationship. And I was wrong. I was wrong. I mean, I found myself being wrong so many times in this relationship. Now that I'm married, I can tell you that I'm like never wrong. I do all things right. That is a joke. But let me continue on with the article. Flying monkeys also try to distort the truth and or minimize the truth around the abuse and tell everyone the abuser's narrative of how they are actually the victims. Oftentimes, abusers' family members, friends, new significant others encourage the abuse further by buying all the lies the abuser sells in the abuser's victim narrative and encourages and or pays for ongoing legal custody battles and other disputes to further victimize and relieve the abuser of accountability. Should remember that word, accountability. It is not uncommon for the abusers to try to use the legal system against their victims with phony protective orders and custody battles. Enablers use these things as proof that the abuser is the victim. I know if you've seen um, Lifetime movies. I used to be a Lifetime movie junkie. I haven't had the opportunity to watch a bunch of stuff that I want to watch now that I'm a parent to a young child. But it's usually the same narrative in these Lifetime movies where they have an abuser, where the husband is abusing the wife and the wife seeks divorce or seeks custody of children if there's children involved. These movies usually play out where there's more proof that the victim is the one who is toxic or the abuser than it is for the actual person doing the abusing. It's funny that way. And a lot of that comes from people surrounding and enabling toxic and abusive behavior, where they'll go as far as to testify for the abuser so that they will get off scot-free or have a lesser charge against them, or they'll be able to retain custody of the children, or whatever it is. Most of the time, oftentimes, a person who displays toxic behavior gets away with it for so long because they have a group of a support system around them who enables that behavior. What I can say is that I understand a victim's mentality when they react to toxic behavior. And once they react, because you don't know how long this person has been experiencing this behavior in this relationship that they are in. So once they finally react, it seems like it's a big thing. Oftentimes, it seems like it's a huge thing. They often, huge blow up or whatever, because it's just not so much, it's only so much that someone can take. And I mentioned reactive abuse earlier in the video, but I want to give you a definition from this blog article. I'm going to continue um, and read how it's defined. Abusers and their enablers, I'm reading, are always looking for opportunities to catch you acting crazy, so that they can use that to relieve the abuser of accountability and to make you look responsible or partially responsible for the abuse. You often hear me say, like, you're not responsible for how someone reacts to you. And if we want to flip that, yes, someone else is not responsible for how we react to them. But eventually, after, being a victim of toxicity or abuse over and over again, it's only going to take a straw to break the camel's back before you either respond or you just leave. So the downside to you responding and responding negatively is that now the toxic person can use your response as an excuse or as an example of why they treat you so poorly. So I want you to just think about this for a second, right? If you're in a relationship that's toxic or is unhealthy or even abusive, one, I want you to think about how you are enabling the toxicity or enabling the abuse, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, financial. If you're honest with yourself and you are part and you are enabling this behavior, it's not going to feel good to you. Once I realized that I was an enabler of the behavior that was the toxic behavior that was thrust upon me, I didn't feel great about myself, especially coming from the family background that I came from. So me later on in life finding myself as an enabler in this relationship that I was in, it was a rude awakening. So if you're in a relationship, like I said, that is toxic or abusive, I want you to think about how you may be enabling the abuse or the toxicity. And one of the ways I can tell you that you're enabling this is that you're still with the person. It's that simple. You are still there in this relationship trying to make the relationship work. Now, if you are married, it's a completely different situation. There are some steps that I suggest you go through. I wouldn't suggest, I'll never suggest divorce as the first thing to do, but I am not against divorce if you are being abused in a relationship, in a marriage. That's where I stand. The person needs help. You need help, and the abuser needs help. And to stay in a marriage like that, to me, it just isn't worth your life. But if you're in a relationship and the person is toxic and displays toxic behavior, one way that you can tell that you're enabling this person is that you continue to be in this relationship. And then you continue to look inward to see how you can change their behavior, or you excuse the behavior that they're displaying towards you, and you don't hold the person accountable for their behavior. There are no standards set. So the toxic behavior continues. So take a moment and think about it. I know that's like maybe eye-opening or may not feel great, but it's the truth. If you're in a relationship, even if you're in a friendship where there's toxic, your friend's toxic, and you just know how that person is, and like they blow up every once in a while, and eventually, after a few weeks, they come back around, and you allow that type of behavior. You're enabling that behavior when you're not demanding them. If you're not demanding change from them, you're enabling the behavior. And I can tell you, I've had friendships where I enabled toxic behavior, and you just knew how this person was. And eventually they would come back around after they kind of got over themselves. And I'm too old. I am too old to deal with someone who is not able to deal with, process, and handle their emotions without lashing out on other people. So I don't do that anymore in friendships. But I have in the past, and I have enabled this behavior. So if you're in a platonic relationship with someone who is toxic and you're not calling them out on their actions, you're enabling their behavior. But if you're in a situation where uh, you feel like, where it seems like you have no one to reach out to but the person's friend or family, and once you reach out to those people, they make you feel worse than you felt before you reached out. I can tell you that you're not alone. You may seem alone, but you're not alone. And you just need the right type of support, because those family members or those friends are not going to change. It's not going to happen overnight. You can talk to your blue in the face and they will never see fault in that person. There's That's how they view love. And they believe that enabling behavior means that that's how they show that they love someone. They love their family member or they love their friend. And then the love that they have for their friend or family member trumps the love that they may have for you because you're attached to that person. Your well-being doesn't push aside their friends or family members' well-being. You're not going to get positive results from talking to them, or for reaching out to them. So I would suggest you not even do it. It causes more harm than good, because eventually it gets back to the person that you're with who displays this toxic behavior, and it just makes your living situation more difficult. And finally, if you are the friend or the family member of someone who of someone who displays toxic behavior, and you enable this behavior, I need you to take a deep, dark look into your own soul to see where the disconnect is between reality and falsehood, and start holding your friend or family member accountable. I'm not saying you got to cut your friend or family member off. No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that you got to hold them accountable for their actions, right? If you go back to my story where I talked about, I was, I got in some legal trouble, and I felt safe because I felt safe enough to reach out to my mom and other family members, and they walked through that with me, but it was never condoned. Whatever the excuse could have been, if I was riddled with those excuses by those people around me, I may have never changed my behavior. I may have lived for many more years. I may be a parent now and condone, or not condone. Yeah, I may be a parent now, condone poor behavior of my son just because he's my son. Every time the school calls, if the school calls, my husband and I are fortunate that our son, he's a way better version of the both of us put together. So we are so thankful to God for the heart that he has placed inside of our son, where we're not getting calls home from school on a daily basis that he's, you know, misbehaving. However, if we were the parents that our child was the one disrupting class all the time or making it difficult for the teacher to teach, and I continue to make excuses for him, and never like disciplined him for his actions. Thankfully, that is not how I was raised. And I despise people who enable toxic behavior. Now, I don't despise the person, but I despise the enabling. So that's what I have for you today: the toxic enabler. Make sure that you are not one. And if you have a bunch of toxic enablers around you, you may need to change your environment. So this is Take Back Your Life, Conversations with Shay, where we help women overcome toxic thoughts, feelings, people, and situations by understanding their true identity in Christ so they can live a full and successful life. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, check out the podcast, and like and follow all of my social media handles. You can find me at Shayla Inspires on Instagram, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. Until next time,